G'day, it's Ryan the Lion from A Few Quiet Yarns, and I have with me two of our lovely sponsors. They're from the same organisation, but they're a team. So we've got both Joe Fair and Vincent Vuillard from the Future of Work. Welcome to AFQY. This is a yarn with our sponsors for the May 21st AFQY event. So as with tradition, we'll start with finding out who you are as a person. We'll meet the person, not the suit. We'll talk about business later. And we'll start with you, Joe.
Sure, that's a very big question. Who am I? So I'm lots of things. I'm a mum. I'm a businesswoman. I'm passionate about movies, about books. I paddleboard a little bit in my spare time. Love the ocean. I'm a Wellingtonian, born and bred, so I've always lived near the water, which I do love. I've travelled around the world and lived in a number of places, but Auckland's home, and love being here. So that's who I am. Have two kids, two cats, and a pretty busy home life.
Well, I've got to give you a round of applause and say that has to be the best meet the person ever, because you covered so many things that people who would raise with you in terms of world travel, paddle boarding. I tried some paddle boarding down in Whangamatara over the holidays before lockdown, and that was quite hilarious. You being a professional would know what probably happened to me numerous times.
Got a little bit wet.
Yes, indeed. So yeah, that was fantastic. Thank you for giving us so much of a picture of who you are outside of work, because we're getting to work next, or after question two. But next, we'll go to Vincent. Bonjour, monsieur. Je m'appelle Ryan. Comment vous appelez-vous?
Bonjour, Ryan. Je m'appelle Vincent. And I'm French-born Kiwi. Soon. Not yet. But I've been in New Zealand for 6-7 years now. Before that, I was in Australia, but just figured out New Zealand was better. Yes. So I stayed. I have two kids that were born here, Vicky and Nico. Nico is actually 3 months old and Vicky is 4 and a bit. So lockdown has been quite interesting for us. What I'm passionate about, two things. One is golf, that I've played since I'm Vicky's age, so long time ago. Haven't been able to play during lockdown, so I play table tennis virtually. I'll talk to you about this later, which is pretty exciting.
That's very cool. And we have had the odd rugby discussion, and I have let you know that my favourite international player is Sebastian Chabal, the animal. Love that. And we'll get to that.
Your jersey is on its way, by the way.
Oh, yes. Yes.
You can have a good jersey, you know?
I've got to have a French jersey. So French jersey for May 21st, AFQY. That will set the cat amongst the pigeons, you could say. How many puns can I pull out here? I don't know. This is quite good.
My best memory, though, is at Eden Park. It was France against New Zealand.
Yeah. Amazing
game. Started with national anthem from New Zealand, Maori, and then in English, followed by French. I don't think I felt, better in my entire life than singing those three anthems. Just like it was amazing. And then seeing the French winning for the first half, and then I just took a picture and said, "I'm off." And they're like, "What do you mean?" Like, "Well, you guys are gonna crush us then, so I better just go." And it happened. People were sorry at the end. They were like, "We're really sorry."
But you always turn up at the final of the World Cup. Like, yeah, you can be having the most terrible 4 years, and you turn up at the final of the World Cup and put the shits up every Kiwi. And we are, we're always expecting to get whipped up. So there we go.
I'm a proud All Black supporter anyway. So for me, it's always a good ending.
Yeah. Proud All Black supporter. And I'm a proud rugby supporter wherever you're from. All right, well, let's get into question two. What impact are you making? So we'll actually start with you, Vincent, because we go back and forth between the two of you, give you equal airtime, being
like a political campaign with equal airtime.
Yeah, we'll see if that really happens, but yeah, let's give it a go.
Yeah, tell us about what impact you're making with work.
I'll be quick. So Joe and I started Future Work Studio a year and a half ago. And our vision, which is still the same, is to really help organizations navigate the complexity of the future of work with exponential technology, things that are happening in society. And what we're seeing now with COVID-19 is that those principles that were very important but not so urgent for many companies are now very important, very urgent. And so that's exciting in some ways, in terms of rethinking how we think about work, how we think about a job, where do we do this, how do we do it, and so that's our passion, like really helping companies thrive no matter what the situation is out there, and that's what's keep us busy at the moment.
Absolutely. Now, I thoroughly appreciate and enjoy all of the things that you're talking about, and don't let me take this down a big rabbit hole, but I loved when I heard Saray Avery talk about the current education system was set up for the third industrial revolution, and it was essentially a babysitting service to enable the workers to go to the factories and taught the kids how to take orders. So you learn your arithmetic, 1 + 1 = 2. And he had his daughter asking why did she have to learn arithmetic when she had a computer that could, do quantum physics sort of thing for her. And this is where it all came from in a past discussion. So the future of work, and to connect back to how I met you two with the introduction from Rod Snodgrass, one of his favourite terms that he used in his AFQY talk was jump shift. So COVID-19 has accelerated that non-urgent to really urgent. It's been a jump shift from where we are now to where we would have been in 10 years, done in 4 weeks. And hence we have all these things that would normally go through a really slow process, and over time and small bites, we've just gone. So with that, without going down the rabbit hole, we'll come over to Joe. So Joe, if you can add to that story around the impact that you are making, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, look, I think Vincent captured it really well. We're really passionate about how do we support organisations make this jump shift, as you call it. So there's 2 main ways we do that. We have a platform called Hive, which is very much about enabling inside organisations that first step. So experiential learning through projects, the opportunity to rebalance work, to try something new, to work in your day job but experience a different part of the organisation, collaborate differently. And we've been talking to a lot of organisations about that. And then we also have Scale, which is very much about what we're talking about today, which is really set up to allow organisations to access very specialised skills they need to focus on a particular area and get a bit of a leap or make a jump shift in terms of that area. So we see a lot of interest in digital marketing, tech-based skills, particularly at the moment with the shift post the coronavirus. There's a lot of businesses that are reinventing their digital strategy or looking to grow exponentially and really wanting to bring in those skill sets. So we try and be very practical. We've both spent a lot of time in senior roles in organisations. We know it's not easy always to make that start. So really pragmatic, get moving and really prepare for the future of work.
Yes. Thank you very much for that. And just to sort of give a bit of a Ryan version of it, and you can correct where you need to. So Scale is the tool where a company might be able to say, look, we don't have the expertise, but we need the expertise for a short term, or we want to test and we want to do it. So instead of hiring an FTE and going full out with that cost expense and all the rest of it, they can use Scale to go and find the talent to complete a project and then build on that project until the case might be that they either just carry on doing that, which is the future of work, the gig economy, or another option that already sort of indicated is that they actually hire someone full time. But I think that's one of the discussion points I'd like to get you to both elaborate on is the gig economy and the future of work. Where through the day you might be working on 4 different projects for 4 different organisations, but doing the same sort of stuff, where you are the expert, highly sought after, and can almost get to the Tim Ferriss 4-hour week, where you're able to command that price as an expert and do, well, probably not 4 hours a week, but let's say you can do 4 hours a day and have more family time, which is better for the children and the society. I'll stop my ideas, but back to you two.
No, that's exactly right. There's a lot of richness in what you've just said, but it is very much around that fluidity and that working differently. You know, we really believe the future of work, or the big shift, lies in you know, organizations becoming more responsive and more resilient by focusing on skills. So, you know, taking away the old chronological CV where you work your way through, to actually, what are the skills you can offer, what are you interested in, what are you passionate about, and how do you leverage that inside an organization, or in and out of organizations on a portfolio basis.
Yeah, so sorry.
I was just wanting to add, like, specifically, two of the things that we're doing is you know, redefining what a job is. I mean, a job is something that was created, you know, many decades ago because it was needed. Things were more linear, and you needed someone to perform a task, you know, repetitively for a period of time, and then that was designed to help this, and all the recruitment and everything that goes with it, the promotion goes around the job. I think that's been challenged now. We were on a call just before with one senior executive that actually started to challenge his company and said, how many of us have been doing in the last, you know, 2 months our job the way it's written in our job description? And many said, actually, none of us, right? And they're saying, well, then there is something to change here. So, you know, the other thing that we're doing in parallel is to say, organizations are always, you know, employees look at organizations to find all the answers. The way we want to work is to say, well, yes, we're going to help with that, and the platforms to give more autonomy to people, to say, well, there are things that I want to do for this company because I believe in the values, and I have friends and colleagues here, but maybe not for 5 days a week. But I still need 5 days of income to pay what I need to pay. So how can I actually be on both sides, both 3 days somewhere doing the job I love to do, or the tasks that I like to do in that environment, but also the 2 other days learning or experiencing new things and crafting those skills that I will need to always be employable and always be you know, enjoying working.
Well, that's there's a whole bunch of things in there I want to grab onto, but you talk about the 3 days of doing what you love and passionate about now, and the 2 days of you know, sort of learning for the next role. Because if you think about it, when I first started work, there was no social media. When we finish work, there's going to be a whole bunch of jobs that didn't exist right now. Yeah. And this is a big discussion about the robots taking all the work for the humans. Like, well, the robots will do some work that we used to do. They'll be in the factories, they'll be moving around boxes and doing stuff. They could be doing more, but humans will go on to the next step, because the technology's always trailing behind us and serving us, because it's our imagination that's driving us forward, you know. Who would have thought we'd have drones, which essentially are hovering UFOs in some regards, and one day we will have beam us up, Scotty, because we are just particles, and we will be able to be broken down and sent across a network to the other side and reassembled, just like in Star Trek. We just haven't got to that technology yet, but we will get there, I think. And coming back to your point though, is the ability to learn what's coming new and start doing it, so that as the old one dies off, you're now an expert in the new one, which we couldn't do when we were stuck to our job descriptions. And the thing I was going to say is, all we have to do is look at the number of people that studied one thing and are doing something completely obscure to it now. And I just call it a degree, a license to drive. And to drop another point in there was a big, I don't know, you'll probably remember this, is there was 100 companies that came out and had signed this thing saying you don't need a degree to work for us now. And that, to me, you know, I think that the best way to learn is doing, I think. And if you think, you know, you start a job and you do it, the more you learn and understand it, the better you can do it, and then you start changing it and adapting it. So I don't think you can learn it at university and then do it for the rest of your life. You are going to be learning and changing constantly.
And specifically because a lot of it is moving from being a generalist to being a specialist. And so, you know, 20 years ago, you would hire someone to do something and you would expect that person to have done that 50 times. And that's how people basically were promoted. But today, it's more a blend of, I need someone, you know, in marketing, for example, you might have already a generalist in your organization, but you need someone, an SEO expert, to get on the first page of Google because that's driving your sales. And the generalist will say, well, look, those are the channels we can use and all the things, but they might not have the ability to do the SEO that someone can effectively do. And so what we're really trying to do is cater for both and say, well, there are people that don't want to be in one organization, but they want to be those people that are very specialized and do those tasks, and they want to do that across multiple organizations. And there are others that want to be within an organization, but want to learn more of those specialized tasks. And we want to enable this where they can pick projects within the organization to learn this. And that's really what Hive is really about.
Brilliant. And you know, just bringing what you've said into practical, or my real life version, right? So I have, I think, worked in 8 industries across 16 jobs before I set up AFQY, which is my second company. And my LinkedIn personal summary now starts off with, I'm a multi-potentialite. Mm. When I was a 20-year-old, my parents were both just saying, go to university, study, get a job. And when I partied for the first year of university and ended up running most of the parties and drawing all the posters, they put an ad in front of me, which was to become an art director. So I became an art director. Was part of a team that won 7 awards. Well, there was more than 7, but I was involved in 7 of the projects that were award winning. Did the only work for the All Blacks outside of Saatchi's, which is my 15 minutes to fame, or 15 seconds. Oh. But what I was going to say is, back then, like my father had worked in the same company all his life. He retired after working for 47 years for them. And he wanted to take his paycheck and open up a rugby bookshop. And by that stage, Amazon and Google had replaced that, and there was no way that a bookshop would ever survive, not specialised. And all he wanted to do was talk rugby. So he managed to fulfil that by doing other things. But you can see how if we just stick at this like dream that you had 47 years ago, by the time you get to that point, it's non-existent. And they were stuck on keeping the same job, keep the one job, whereas I was like, I want to do this. I want to travel the world and run bars and clubs, and ran Michelin star restaurants for Marco Pierre White and had a fantastic time. Come back and got into construction marketing, learned about the future of DIFM, do it for me instead of DIY, which got me thinking. You know, so I have hopped around like the gig economy. It's sort of like if there was my father's generation, my generation, dare I say it, the millennials, but it's all leading towards the breakdown of the siloed role to the gig economy where you are working across multiple companies.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. And I think, you know, the whole generation Z, you know, who are now entering the workforce, many of them grew up in the platform economy and you know, as digital natives. So, you know, many of them had their first business at 12 years old on Instagram, you know, selling, I don't know, products of some kind. So there's this whole generation of entrepreneurs that have been enabled by digital technologies that are now coming into the workforce. So, you know, we are going to continue to see more and more change, which is great.
So if I was to ask you, what is the, you know, future? I don't know if you look at it in a right now, we've just jumped ahead to where we thought we'd be in 2030 or 2025. But what is the future of work? Like, how far out can, with your experience, background, education, reading, discussion, debate, where is it going? What does the crystal ball say?
Vincent?
Is that a hospital pass, is it?
No, I wasn't sure who. I'm happy to answer it.
Either you jump in.
We can give a different perspective, but look, I think we don't know. And that's actually what makes it really exciting. And so because we don't know, that means there's a whole lot of things we need to do to prepare for it, like keep learning, be really learning agile, you know, hone our skills that go across multiple functions and multiple ways of working. We need to be flexible. We need to have a growth mindset. You know, one of the things we often talk to people about is it's not just about learning, it's about unlearning. So, you know, just because we've always done something some way, actually the future of work is being willing to completely upend that and think about things differently. It's about collaboration. we know that increasingly the problems are getting harder and harder. They're more complex, they're difficult to solve. So we need to bring groups of people together. So it's also about diversity and inclusion. So, you know, I think the future of work is more of what we're starting to see, but on steroids. And we have to be brave enough to step back from the way we've always done things and really embrace the unknown, and therefore develop the skills that make us successful in that ambiguity and that unknown. Vincent may have a different perspective.
No, I think it's very aligned to what I'm thinking. Obviously, I think the parallel I draw is my experience in the military, where I spent 10 years, you know, doing a lot of different things there. But the way one thing that hit me when I was there is during training, you know, people explain to you that we train to be at our best when everyone is at their worst. And so when you train like this, you know, before going to battle or being deployed, you don't know what's going to happen. No one's like, well, I've done that before. I know exactly how it's going to be. You don't know, right? But what you know is that you can prepare. And so that's what Joe was talking about in terms of your skills, in terms of your muscles, whatever. You prepare for different scenarios, and then you prepare before you go into this. But no one knows the outcome, right? And so that's when you're in the midst of battle that all those reflexes that you've acquired come to front, and then you can basically survive and thrive for most part. And so I think using that in times like today, where we go into a global pandemic, again, no one know the outcome of this. No one went through this and is still alive to talk about it and say, hey, this is what we've done. We've done it 10 times. It's easy. The world is grappling with this. And I think, you know, today it's a pandemic, tomorrow it's going to be something else. I don't think we're going to have many situations where people have done that 50 times and therefore have all the answers and it's just following a playbook. And that's why what Joe was talking about is around training and preparing. There are things that we know and we control, and there are things we can't control. They're not, it doesn't really matter to really focus on things you can't control, but more the things you can control within your organization, within yourself, and say, what are the things that I could be preparing for and developing? And the number one is mindset. You know, that's the first thing that actually is in the way of many things in life. And in those transformations, that's the hardest thing. People really can do things, but do they really want to?
And we've seen that beautifully, as Vincent said. You know, there are organizations that have pivoted, you know, gyms that, you know, within 24 hours have taken their classes online, or, you know, other organizations, they've set up deliveries, home deliveries, contactless. You know, so a lot of it is you can't prepare for exactly what's going to come, but if you've got the mindset and the core skills, then you're ready for anything.
Exactly.
I was about to respond to Vincent, whatever it said, and then when you mentioned that, I started thinking about SNAP and AFQY and AFQY. I mean, we didn't really, we just went online.
Yes.
That wasn't amazing.
That's a beautiful example.
But that was amazing,
Yeah, you went from like having people in person based on community, and all of a sudden you were able to create the community online.
Yeah. So thank you very much. I do appreciate it. I do sort of think that it's a pretty simple thing to go from an in-person to online event compared to being a rental car company to becoming a food delivery, contactless delivery company, right? So if you're a rental car company, you just rent cars and people drive it, and if they stuff it up, you've got insurance or they paid for insurance. But if you go to become a contactless delivery, you've got to have people that are doing all the hygiene things, that are doing the deliveries properly. They have to learn how to deal with, like we've got a dog, not that he's a bad dog, but he'll come running up to someone in our property and bark at them and looks pretty threatening, but he's actually probably going to lick them to death or anything. So you've got people that have never done this, that don't have the experience of the posties, taking all these things into account. But it comes back to the mindset. That's what I was going to say. So taking a leaf out of Xero's book, who are providing 5 or 6 sessions worth of counselling to all their clients, is the new role in the future company going to be the chief, let's not use a bullshit thing like chief happiness officer, but is it going to be the company psychologist? And the first thing is, most people in the olden days will go, I'll never go to them, never tell them anything about us, because that was one of the things my father told me when I first started working as an art director, is don't tell anyone about your personal life. Go there, do a good job, leave. They're not your friends, they're your workmates. and you'll find someone in there, you won't know who it is. If you do tell them, we'll use it against you. And this is like, climbing up the rat race. Put Ryan down so I can get promotion over him. I was quite shocked. I was like, what? You spend most of your waking life at work. How can you not want to be friends with those people, or have an issue about not being friends with those people and getting to know them and doing a few things with them? It's not that you want to spend 24 hours a day with them, but you certainly can't be cold-hearted strangers for 8 hours a day together. I just couldn't see it being me. And I got burnt by exactly what he said. And now we're at a stage where we've moved towards this. And again, it's for the last, I don't know how many years, because you have a big HR background, Joe, the term bring our full selves to work has been talked about, but people still have a mask and only show you half, right? Which is part about what AFQY, Meet the Person, Not the Suit's about. It's about it's putting a seed in people's minds that they take away from AFQY so that they can do that. And also that's what Ryan the Lion is about. A lot of people think I was probably just drunk at 2 o'clock in the morning and wrote my nickname into LinkedIn. But the truth is that we have a nickname at school. We have a nickname in our sports team. We have a nickname in most areas of our life. But again, we have that mask on at work, so we don't have nicknames because people don't know that about us. So Ryan the Lion is about meeting the person. This is my nickname. So there was an actual real purpose, or is a real purpose behind it. Stupidly, I've never really shared it till now, and I must sort of do something a little bit more about sharing that. But yeah, so the future of work, will we be conditioned to opening up, not closing down, and therefore will we be able to open up to a company psychologist or counsellor so that they can help us work through our problems, because everybody has problems, even if you can't see it behind the mask. And therefore we are happier in our lives and we're more productive in our work, and both sides of the equation, employee or contractor and company, are better off together.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. When you said the mask, I had this image in my head, and we talked a bit about this, but sometimes when you go into a job within a company, it feels like you're going to a costume party, where you go into a costume and it's expected that if you wear a Superman costume, you act a bit more like Superman or Superwoman or whatever, a lion, a tiger. It's what a job in a box does to you. And so if you're a leader, you need to act like this and be strong and whatnot. That's what you think that is, as opposed to say, well, actually, we don't have costumes. Let's come up. And that's what we've seen through, I think, more Zoom and working from home. We've seen more of people's life than, we would see in the office. And it was normalized. Be like, it's fine, to have the kids around and be in your house. Like, it's expected because we remove those masks and say we're all facing the same thing, And I think the more we do this, the more we allow people to just be themselves. One of the things that we're seeing with our client is just incredible to see, put them on a platform and say, those are the 2 or 3 things that we want to know about you that are very different to what an HR profile could be, or even LinkedIn. People bring who they are to this. They put a different picture, they put what they're passionate about, and you just see this richness that you have within your organization that you didn't expect because you were seeing the roles, not the person. So, borrowing from your famous expression, talk to the person, not the suit, you could do the same thing within an organization. Say, hey, talk to the person, not the job title. And that will make a huge difference on its own.
Yes. Oh, man. So we could keep talking forever. And I think we should maybe actually start a series, actually, to be honest, and put a bit of structure around it so that we don't go off on divergent rabbit holes from Ryan. But this is the sort of stuff. So AFQY was started as a tech network to bring together people that wanted to share experiences, and predominantly aimed at the CIOs. And then, of course, it grew to be something quite bigger in the sense that it was a much broader community. Everyone was welcome, and it just evolved. And I had no plan for it to become that. It was designed to be a place for CIOs to come and peer-to-peer network, because that's what they had said they wanted. But because I ran it publicly, meant everybody could say they wanted to come, and they did. And here we are today. And it's really led to this for me, a real people focus, like between my background of my life experiences and things I've been through and would rather not and want to change them. While it started in the tech industry, I think AFQY is growing outside the tech industry, but I think every industry has to use tech, whether it's mobile phone with your roster on it and you go and do a job that doesn't involve tech at all, like when I used to be a bartender, or actually a cocktail mixologist, to be fancy about it, through to a job that uses tech like we are today. So yeah, I think there's some, my mind is boggling with some exciting possibilities of the future, and great to have this discussion. But before we wrap up, we have two more questions, and that is, the next one is, what is your AFQY experience? Tell the people about your AFQY experience. So I think it's Joe's turn this time.
It is.
Okay, so my first experience was actually your first virtual online community, which was just brilliant. I saw it, I saw your pivot within the very first days of knowing that we were going into lockdown, and I was so impressed. And I'd been watching all the LinkedIn about your in-person events over many months, and just never been able to go for whatever reason. So had actually registered to attend, and then of course you reached out and said, would I talk about scale? Because obviously with the lockdown we had waived all our fees for businesses to post jobs as part of our contribution to trying to do the right thing. So so my first one ended up actually saying a few words, which of course I hadn't anticipated at all. But that was my first, and I've been to everyone since. I think the 2 or 3 you've had during lockdown, and then also your cafe breakfast, which have been great just to connect and have more time to just hear what people are up to and learn a bit more about a few different people. So yeah, so a big thank you from me, because I've really enjoyed getting to know you and getting to know the community. And when we think about the positives that come out of this period, that being a part of this community is now one of the positives that I will look back on.
Well, that's excellent. Thank you very much for that. It's good to hear. And I'd almost forgot about the AFQY Cafe. Again, I made this quip the other day. Everything that I've done well has been by accident, so I call myself an accidental genius. But I set up AFQY Cafe as a reason to get me out of bed, because I was finding it very hard to actually get out of bed at a reasonable time in the morning and get the day started. And was having that early COVID lockdown thing of, oh my God, we're going to go into zombie territory, and people are going to be climbing over the fence trying to raid our fridge, and I'll have to be beating them away with a stick. This is where the future's going to go. The world's going to be overrun with people either dying, not having work, needing food, you name it. It's going to be. So I was having some quite imaginative movie script thoughts, which obviously 4 weeks on we're nowhere near that, thankfully. But that was what I started for, was to get me out of bed, to have a conversation with a person so that it would get me on work track. And then of course it was another extension of community, which AFQY is all about. And that's another thing to wrap in there, is the in terms of connection and community, is the rat experiment in the 60s, which caused the war on drugs. And then it's not the placebo, it's the control experiment, which was called the rat park experiment in 1978, which proved to be untrue, but proved that sentient beings, which humans are, rats are, a lot of animals, like my dog is a sentient being, has dreams, emotions, sulks, is that we need, on various levels, emotional connection. So whether it be close family, close friend, all the way through to distant friend, acquaintance, through to the engagement with a stranger on the street, is it a positive or negative one? So there's certainly a lot of things around the idea of community and connection. And I better chuck in there that I speak to think, which will just explain my last 5 minutes. It's made me really, your comments really made me think. Thanks. And Vincent, yourself?
Well, my experience of AFQY is very similar actually to Joe, because I think we went to the first event at the same time, and the cafe is definitely like one of the highlights of the lockdown. specifically what I like is the community that you've created, the type of people that come here, the stories that we hear. You know, it's pretty cool to go. I think it's Thursday night or Friday night, whenever. Like during lockdown, it was quite a special moment where you were like 100+ people having a beer at home, and then you're talking to like-minded people, going to break out, just like hi, hello. You know, like those things that you generally don't do because your days are mostly Zoom with either clients or you know, family, or but never really like strangers. You know, you don't bump into people on Zoom, right? But this allowed that, and I thought that was a brilliant idea that you had to do those breakouts and use them like that. So yeah, community very important for us. Everything we do is around community and making it better because we're all humans, right? So technology, to your point earlier, the way we see technology is not to replace humans in the process, is to make some of it easier for more human contacts.
Yes, awesome. All right, well, we'll stick with you, Vincent, for the last question, which is, what is the coolest thing in tech, according to you? So it's not about what's the highest trending thing on the internet or what's the coolest answer I can give. It's about meeting the person. What's your coolest thing in tech at the moment?
Well, funny enough, and that's something we have in our business that you know, we acquired, was a VR headset, and we've experienced both. Being Singularity University alumni, we both experienced VR a few years ago, and it was kind of all right, but never really there. And the Quest that we just got is just bringing it to the next level in terms of the possibilities and what we see. The way I'm using it is probably a bit different to Joe, but I really like this thing about community, just like Joe as well. But and when we were in a co-working space with everyone around, the place where everything happened was around the table tennis table, and everyone would go, no matter what your level is. Everyone plays. It's fun, and we made so much connection like this. And when we moved out to our own office, and then now in lockdown, I really felt like I was missing that. And they just released a new game simulation on the VR headset, which is called 11 Table Tennis, which is absolutely outstanding, replicating exactly the movement, everything. But the thing that they do, which is better than everyone else, is the community. The community of people there is outstanding. So, you know, I'm playing on the French Championship, so I can meet like French people there. I'm playing on the Kiwi one with Australia, which is really cool as well. You get coaching, you get a lot of things, and you improve your game, which is interesting because you play a lot on it, and then it should reflect that in real life as well, which to me has massive implication for training and how we do things. But at the heart of it, I'm not putting my headset to just be on my own talking to bots and robots. You know, the technology is enabling me to play a game I really enjoy, but reproduce this community feeling that I really like virtually, which has been incredible.
That's very cool, man. I hadn't actually thought of how it wrapped into the community, but yeah, I think you were commenting before we recorded about the 60,000 people on there, and it reminds me back of when they used to talk about gaming being the first thing. Oh, kids gaming, it's terrible, rah, rah, rah. And then it came out that gaming actually taught them collaboration skills and acceptance skills, and there were kids from all different parts of the world, all different ethnicities, languages, etc., but coming together as a team through online gaming, and it actually had this really positive effect, not the to be expected stereotypical, oh, you're spending too much time gaming. So yeah, that's great to hear about the community. And what's your ranking? Where are you sitting amongst the 60,000?
You know, I'm progressing. I'm closing. I think now I'm like 201 or 2. So I'm closing the 200.
Wow, you could make if you're a tennis player, you would make a very good financial career out of.
Yeah, but I think it's like tennis, right? And I've never played really well, but you can see the difference. Like even I play against like top 100, let's say, and you know they're a bit better. But then you go top 10, and it's literally like tennis. Those guys are like at a different level. You play with them, you can see it's a different world, you know. And that's also exciting because they all want to teach you and play, but it's you can see the gap. And I think in tennis it's the same, like the top 10 or even the top 2 for a long time were like, okay, they're different. They're the Michael Jordan, you know? They're not in the same league, which is quite exciting.
Sorry. You just made me think, right? You're talking about the future of work and the VR headsets and when you talk about the going to the top 10, and I was just russicking around for this, you know.
Oh, yeah, Muse, yeah.
Yeah.
So talking about singularity, you mentioned singularity, and if you think it, therefore it happens. I'm going to play a shot, or I need to have a meeting with Joe and Vincent. Sends off the meeting request, which is why I bought this to start testing out the entry level stuff. I've never got it out of the box yet, but maybe we'll do that.
It's pretty cool, actually.
The brainwaves.
Yeah.
Yes. But so many thoughts. But let's hand it over to Joe. What's your favourite piece of tech?
Yeah, well, I also love the Oculus. I use it differently, as Vincent said, and I've had my first real world injury doing a virtual jumping off a building, but that's a story for another day. Actually, what I really like, and it's really simple, is the camera on my iPhone. So I love photography. I used to go out, take my DSLR camera. I lived in Singapore for a while, and I really wanted to get to know the real Singapore, and I used to take out this big piece of equipment to explore. And I just love the fact that wherever I am, you can get these amazing photos, whether it's portraits of family, portraits of food, or, you know, scenery. I just think it's quite magical, the quality of the camera. So really simple tech, really well done. So.
Yep, got to agree with you. You actually hit the nail on the head for me. I love carrying my camera around. Let's not say carrying my phone around, but I love carrying my camera around. Like sitting outside and during AFQY Cafe, you would have heard the TUI or the resident TUI.
Yes.
I pulled it out and took a few photos of that the other day, and I saw Tristan Boot, who some people will know through the IT industry is a bit of a character. He had put a photo on Facebook. What was it? Something about some sort of. But he managed to capture the TUI looking down at him and looking really pissed off. So
as only TUIs can.
Yeah, he had some funny comment about it, and it sort of set up a whole chain. But I think his was done with the I don't know, it might have been done with the phone. But yeah, I'm forever pulling out to the point my wife will see me reaching for the gun. And she'll be like, no, take your photo. Oh, funny. Oh, yeah. And do you see you can get a wee rig now where you put, it's probably been around for, I don't know, 10 years, but I just saw it the other day and realized I could buy a rig that allows you to put a lens onto your camera.
So you can zoom, yeah. Because that's the only thing I do miss. I miss the ability to really zoom in, yeah.
Yeah, we can buy this sort of like rig thing, and then it attaches your camera to it and attaches the lens to it. So you can probably more likely carry the lens if you have one of those big, photo ones. But then you'd have all the ability of doing the work on the camera, which is what I enjoy, because I'll just sit there editing with it. So well, we got there, and probably could have been talking all night if I hadn't put a plug in myself. Some great subjects. So I think we do need to get a series going and work out how that looks. But for now, let's wrap it up for AFQY May 21st. And I'm just going to say here on film, I'm not going to edit this like I normally would. I used to edit them to fit it down to the 10 minutes to go native on LinkedIn. But I think what I'll do is just load this up through YouTube and have the whole thing there because there are some really amazing parts of the discussion that both you shared. That I don't know how I would cut it down basically, so I won't. And look forward to everybody joining us and getting involved in that discussion, because there'll be people that are now part of the gig economy that they didn't choose to be, looking for something. And there are lots of options out there. Scale is a New Zealand based option that we're going to hopefully drive a lot of projects to, and therefore a lot of good people from around the country can get involved in local projects that way. And also Hive, which is available for internal companies use internally, and of course talk to you each around the future of work, some of the cool stuff you've experienced. So with that show, instead of saying ka kite anō, we could say ka kite anō, but we could also say au revoir.
Au revoir, matiwa. Cool.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.